everybody, welcome back and thanks for watching. Today we are going to be making caramelized onion and pear pizza with a quinoa crust. I know it sounds weird. I was really skeptical when I first had it too, but it's so good and it's really easy to make. I think you're gonna love it. The great thing about quinoa, a number of things actually. First of all, this will be gluten-free. And secondly, quinoa is one of the few plant-based complete proteins. And what that means is proteins are made up of amino acids, and there are 20 total amino acids, 11 of which our body can make on their own. So there's 9 that it can not make, and that's what they call the essential amino acids. And that's what we have to make sure to get in our food. It's not important to get that all in one bite. You can combine different foods. Grains and beans are a great one mixed together, make a complete protein, but quinoa is a complete protein. It has all 9 of those essential amino acids. So it's a really great seed, actually it's not a grain, to work into your diet wherever you can. And it's really tasty. Ugh, no, where it can. Really. Okay, so let's just get started. Now for the quinoa crust, you need to use raw quinoa and you need to soak it for at least 8 hours. So if you're going to make it for lunch, soak it overnight. If you're going to make it for dinner, just do it in the morning on your way to work. And what you'll want to do is in a bowl like this one, 1 cup of raw quinoa, you're going to want to rinse it. It has a natural coating on it, and that's what causes the sometimes bitter flavor of quinoa. So you want to rinse that off, put it in a bowl, cover it with water, a good amount of water, cover it with saran wrap, and just set that aside, let that soak. Then when you're ready to make your pizza, the first thing you want to do is check your oven, make sure you have your shelf on the medium level. Turn your oven on to 400 degrees, because that's going to take about 25 minutes to get there, and we need that time. And then you want to start with your onions, because caramelizing onions takes about at least 15 minutes. Mine always take 20 to 30 minutes. And you want to slice the onions in no less than 1/8 of an inch strips. If they're too thin, they're going to burn. If they're too fat, they're not going to caramelize. And you want 1.5 cups kind of packed down. You're going to cook this in a good medium-sized pan. You want enough room. You don't want your onions piled on top of each other because they're just going to steam and cook. They're not going to caramelize. And you're going to use a teaspoon of butter. This doesn't need to be exact. A teaspoon of butter, and you know how our cubes are, measured out in tablespoons. A teaspoon is 1/3 of a tablespoon, so just portion it that way. Melt the butter and about a teaspoon of olive oil. Put your onions in the pan, medium to low, closer to low, and just let those slowly cook for about 20 minutes. Watch them. When they're caramelized, just pull them off the heat, let them sit in the pan until you're ready for them. Okay, so while the onions are caramelizing, we're going to get our crust ready to go and all of our other ingredients. So for the crust, this is my cup of quinoa that's been soaking overnight. Even though I've rinsed it already, I'm going to rinse it again. I'm just going to give this another rinse just to make sure that all that natural powder gets off of it so it won't be bitter. Okay, and this is crazy easy. You're just going to throw everything into a blender. You've got your quinoa soaked. Then to that, we're going to add 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder, 1/2 teaspoon of onion powder, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, and 1/4 cup of finely grated Parmesan cheese, and 1/4 cup of cold water. So easy, just to throw everything in the blender. So what I usually do is start this on The food chop, if you have one that sort of goes back and forth and gets everything blended really well, it takes a minute, but this will blend. You'll see it gets liquid. When it gets to the liquid form where it's blending really well, do that for 1 minute. There's only been one time for some reason that mine's been so thick, maybe I soaked it extra long, I don't know. But I did add an extra tablespoon of water, got it going, and that was fine. But don't do that until you've really given it a try. It takes a couple of minutes to get it going, and then 1 full minute after it's really going, so you get it really smooth. So I'll do that now. It. Now, since the crust starts out in such a liquid form, you have to form your pizza in a pan that has sides. So for this amount, I like to use a 10-inch cake pan. I have done it in a 9-inch. It's just a little bit thicker, and that's fine. You can also use a spring form pan if you have those, but something with an edge. And what you want to do is line it with parchment paper. So get your parchment paper, out of your roll, put your pan on top of it, sketch around it with a pen or a pencil, and then just cut just inside the line so that you account for the thickness of the walls. And then I'm just going to give a little spray of cooking spray inside the bottom of the pan. Put my parchment paper down, curl side down to make your life easier. Press it in there, and another quick spray of Pam. And then we're just going to pour it into the pan. Isn't that crazy? Now the baking powder is what's going to make it rise a little bit. One time I forgot to put the baking powder in, and it actually turned out fine. It was like a thinner crust, a little bit crunchier. So if you forget or you want to try it that way, that's okay. Then just spread it around with the back of a spoon, just roughly get it to all the edges. And then bang it on your counter just to get it nice and flattened out and even. There you go. Isn't that crazy? I've already got another one prepared. I'm going to make 2 different ones for you today. So I'm going to throw these both in our 400-degree oven for 15 minutes on the middle rack. While that's cooking, we'll come back and get everything else ready.
I'll be back.
So while the crusts are cooking in the oven for the first 15 minutes, you want to get everything else ready. Now for our caramelized onion and pear pizza, all we need is we've got our 1.5 cups of caramelized onion. It comes down to that amount, so that's why starting with 1.5 cups is a good amount. You need 1/2 cup of grated mozzarella cheese, and then we've got Parmesan cheese, which we're only going to use 2 tablespoons of. And our pear, which we're going to peel and slice later. You don't want to do that ahead because it'll get brown. And I've got some other things here for the second pizza we're going to make. I just want to show you that really you can treat it like any other pizza and use any toppings that you like. So when the first 15 minutes of baking is done, we're going to flip them over onto 2 other pans that I've coated with a little bit of cooking spray. Peel off the parchment paper if it's stuck to it, and then put them back in the oven for 5 more minutes. And at that time, we're going to get our pear and other ingredients ready to go. So we flipped the crusts over. They're cooking for their last 5 minutes, and we're going to get our last ingredients ready. So for the pear, you want to wait until now so that it doesn't get brown. We're going to peel it and then just slice it into slices. So just slice it in half, cut the center out, and then just slice it in slices. Now I did try this one time with canned pears just to test it and see. The fresh pears are obviously a lot better, a lot sweeter, but in the winter or when pears aren't available to you, if you have quinoa in the cupboard and can of pear in the cupboard, you can make this. So it does work, it tastes okay, but always choose the fresh pear over the canned. So we've got that ready. That's for our one pizza. And then for our other pizza that I'm going to do, I wanted to do sort of a more traditional one with a tomato sauce and some tomatoes and basil. So I've just picked about These are kind of small, so I did about 6 leaves off of my basil plant. If you don't have a basil plant in your window, you should. Next spring, start that if you can. They grow really well in a sunny window, and they're so great just to freshen up any dish to have fresh basil, and you can also make pesto. So I'm just going to roll those up together and then julienne them. And then we're ready. We've got everything else ready to go. So when the crusts are ready, when the timer goes off for the second 5-minute cooking of the crust, what you want to do is, before you even open the oven to take them out, turn it up to 450, take out your pizzas, shut the door, so that it can be getting up to 450 while we're topping them. The timing works out perfectly. So 450 for the last part. Okay, the timer went off. We're going to get our pizza crust out of the oven and top them, and turn up your oven to 450. Okay, so for the first one, the caramelized onion and pear, I've got a half of a cup of grated mozzarella cheese. I like to put half of it on first, and there's no sauce on this pizza. It's crazy, but you really don't need it. Leave a little bit of room around the edge so you have like that traditional pizza crust. So about a quarter of a cup. And then I'm going to top it with the caramelized onions. And then you're going to put your pears on. I like to kind of do them in a fan-shaped pattern just to make it look pretty. Each of these pizzas cut into 6 slices really nicely, which serves 2 people. Okay, 1 whole pear. And then I'm going to put the rest of the mozzarella, so about another quarter of a cup. I generally over cheese my pizzas, so it was hard for me to try this with less cheese, but I'm surprised and happy to tell you that a half of a cup really is enough. And then I'm going to top that with 2 tablespoons of grated Parmesan cheese, which is 1/8 of a cup. And that's going to give it that nice browned color on top. Okay, so that one's ready. And then for this one, I wanted to do something a little bit more traditional. This one I am going to use sauce, about 2 tablespoons. And I think I'll actually sprinkle that with a little bit of Italian seasoning, maybe just like 1/8 of a teaspoon. And a little bit of pepper flakes, maybe 1/8 of a teaspoon. If you want to, you don't have to, just adds to the flavor. And then for this one, I'm going to top it with just tomatoes and our fresh basil and the mozzarella and Parmesan cheese, just like the other one. And maybe I'll put a few red onions on here. Our fresh basil. And again, about 2 tablespoons of the Parmesan. Okay, and right about now, our oven should be heated to the 450. I'm going to put these back in the oven for 10 minutes and they're done. The pizzas are done. They've been cooking for their last 10 minutes and they look perfect. They smell great. The quinoa has this really nutty kind of smell and flavor that's really good. So I think I'll go ahead and cut into the caramelized onion and pear one. I know that sounds a little bit weird, but trust me, it is so good. We have literally been eating these pizzas 5 out of the last 7 days to test them and tweak the recipe and that sort of thing, and I'm still not tired of them, so you know they're good. I cut them into 6 pieces. I'm just going to cut one right now for myself. So if you're like me and you love pizza and you kind of wish you could eat it every night, we may have just found our ticket to do that. This is protein-packed, super healthy, and delicious. Oh my gosh. I'm not just saying this is so good. The combination of the sweetness of the pears and the caramelized onions, it's an amazing combination. I really hope you'll give this a try because I'm sure you're going to love it. And as you see, if you have a blender, it's super easy. I know you can do it. So I hope you'll give it a try. So go to our website, noboneslife.com, where you can download and print the recipe. And if you like our videos, please give us a like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also subscribe now to our Facebook page and check out our products while you're on our website. And I will see you next time.